Good morning to you. Peace. How you doing? It's Mr. R2 here at Consistency is Currency, your morning podcast of choice. And it is Thursday, December. I got to look down at it. December the 22nd. So the week is almost over. For those who are ready for whatever Christmas is to you and whatever you do during this time of the holiday, let's tap into it. Miss Scott, you've been playing hooky. But good morning to you. I appreciate you for being here. Every time that you're here, I appreciate it. Like always, you will get appreciation or a level of appreciation here at Consistency is Currency. Like I always say, it's your morning podcast of choice. And I say thank you. And I appreciate you for being here. I appreciate you for watching, tapping in, whatever it is that you want to call it. I just thank you for acknowledging that this is somewhere that you are to be in the morning. So for those that's watching on LinkedIn, those who are watching live on YouTube, those who are also watching live on Facebook, I appreciate you. And those who listen to it on the replay, I say thank you to you too. Whether you come back and you listen to it on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Amazon Music, Spotify, Anchor, I will always say thank you. Because you might not get any appreciation all day, but just know you can come here in the morning and get your level of appreciation and then move on and show others appreciation because I've shown it to you first. Let's pass on that energy, transcend that energy to the rest of your day because you're going to get it here first in the morning. And that's always important for me. So thank you for acknowledging that this is something that you want to tap and plug into in the morning because the energy that you get from here, the lessons, the whatever it is that you receive in the morning, you're able to pass that on throughout the day, throughout the day. And again, thank you. Man, today is a special day for me because I made it to be, because I want it to be. Like there are some things that you have to claim in order for it to be and to come into existence. So how has your week been so far? How has your week been? Miss Scott. Hopefully your week has been blessed. Hopefully something that you have had out for yourself, that you have accomplished it. I hope you had a productive week in order for you to close it out as strong as you started it. I hope for the thoughts that you had, that you wanted to empower, you have empowered it in order to change whatever it is that you have desired to change for yourself. So again, like always here at Consistency is Currency, I want you to plug in just so you can plug into somebody else throughout the remaining of the day. So good morning, Miss Antoinette. How are you? All the way from VA. Thank you, ma'am, for checking in. What time is it there? 8:33 East time. So thank you. So we're going to be tapping in. As you can see right here is the question right there. What are you willing to surrender? That's a question. This kind of came from yesterday. I ain't gonna say it kind of came from yesterday because it did come from yesterday. In yesterday's conversation, we talked about small levels of surrender, and I was like, "Ooh, I'll use that for tomorrow." So we're gonna use that for today. Small levels of surrender. Like, what are you willing to surrender? Whether it's time, whether it's a meal, whether it's whatever it is, we're going to open that door and I want you to examine you in order for you to understand that there are some things that I might need to surrender, but am I willing to surrender it? That's the real question that you need to ask yourself. Peace. Good morning, Miss Myrick. But that's some things that you got to do. All right. So we're going to jump into it. So what I want you to do is take this live and share it in a Facebook group or share it on your timeline. And once you share it, go ahead and put the word done just so we can tap into it because I think this is going to be beneficial. Let me rephrase that. I know that this is going to be beneficial. Small levels of surrender. I mean, everybody has small levels of surrender, but I don't think we have communicated about it. I don't think we have developed the concept that there are some things that we may have to utilize to surrender in order for us to ultimately get to places that we know that we're going. In order for us to get there, there's going to be small levels of surrender. All right, here we go. All right, like always, you know the platform. You're going to get definition of words. Inverted, red over white, or white over red. If I say red over white, pay attention to the words that are in red. If I say white over red, pay attention to the words that are in white. And then you can also drop your own definitions and how you see it in the chat, because this is how we're able to tap in and to plug in and to educate each other by putting the information out there for us to see. Got it? Good. Here we go. The first definition of surrender. It says, cease resistance to an enemy or opponent and submit to their authority. And the inversion on this is white over red. Cease resistance to an authority. Ceased resistance to an authority. Like, what do you need to let go of? That's like a small level of resistance. Like, what do you need to let go of? Because a lot of times we may find ourselves bumping our heads into the same wall, but until we understand that that wall ain't going nowhere, until you do something about it, you have to do something different. Like, cease resistance to an authority. Like, what authorities do you have in your life right now? Is it authority of a position? Because you're fighting to learn a position, but if you just learn what to do before you get to the position, or you're operating in that position already, then maybe the position has been waiting for you to understand that I need to learn how to do it. Or there's a direction that I want to go, but I need to be operating in that direction already before I make that turn. Like, I want to operate at a high level of energy, or I want to operate at a high level of understanding, or I want to operate at a high level of achievement. But in order for me to operate at that high level of achievement, then I must cease resisting the process of learning. Because we will push away the books, or we'll push away from the lessons that we're actually not allowing ourselves to be where we're supposed to be, because we're resisting something that is so simple. But what if you surrendered to it? It might actually help you out. But you don't want nobody telling you nothing. But what if you resisted to the words instead of fighting back with who said it? I'm gonna leave that alone. That can go in so many different directions. I ain't touching it. All right, so the next definition is abandon oneself entirely to a powerful emotion or influence. Give in to. Like, what thoughts have you accumulated that you need to completely abandon, like, this year? Like, those thoughts that you've accumulated that you're trying to walk away from, but you haven't walked away from it yet because those emotional thoughts have influenced you to talk down to yourself, or those emotional thoughts like, I can never make it to work on time. We all know that's a lie. We all know that's a lie. We all know somebody that's like that. We all know somebody who says that, like, I can never get up on time. That is far from the truth. I can never leave on time. That is far from the truth. I can't get to the meeting on time. That is far from the truth. Like, you need to surrender to a new time that you need to go to bed, or a new time that you need to wake up, or surrender to the alarm clock that you keep hitting snooze 11 times. So therefore it pushes everything back. But There's a multitude of things that you can surrender to, but you want to be so hard-headed that you can't even abandon it entirely because you want to hold on to it for no reason. It's not beneficial to you. So surrender to it entirely. Surrender to that thought because you can make it to work on time. You can show up on time. But you have to begin the process of what's new about you. Especially for all those New Year's resolutionists who say, new year, new me, but you still doing the old you of last year. But abandon yourself entirely with those particular thoughts. And then there may be a new you. When you look at what needs to happen new for you to have a much achievable outcome. And the last definition, before we go into the deep dive, is to yield to the power, control. Yield to the power, control. That's like you saying, I knew better. Really? You knew better, but but you still did it. You keep bumping your head, but you knew better, right? But you haven't yielded to the power of those small levels of surrender. Because when you acknowledge that this thing can only change when I give it power to change, when I change the way that I move, change the way that I maneuver, change how I learn, change how I speak, change where I go, change now can actually help the actions for tomorrow. But you have to yield to the power of the surrender. You do know you don't have to keep bumping your head to that same wall and being affected by that same situation. But when you yield to the power of surrender, you'll know and understand, like, I don't even need to move that way no more. You can keep saying what you want to say. I know what the truth is, and I'm going to yield to the power of the truth because I knew better to start that argument in the first place. So I'm going to let you hold that one and go from there. So let's begin to understand that when we go into this deep dive, there's just some things that we need to learn, even more about small levels of surrender. So we say that we want things, but are we really willing to go through it to get them? Like, that's only a question that can be proposed by those who are willing to answer it. Because again, we say that we want things, but are we willing to go through them to get it? It sounds good. Like, we have to really understand that there's going to be pain when you go through it. There's going to be long nights. There's going to be tears. There's going to be struggle. There's going to be hunger. And we're trying to figure out life out with those situations and circumstances that come along with it. But trust me, I know it sucks. I know it hurts, but are you willing to fight? Are you willing to maximize your efforts in order for you to have an outcome that can be achieved when you understand that there may be levels of surrender that I have to execute in order for me to get to that destination? Because remember, like yesterday when we spoke, that the known comes from recognizing and admitting to what is made known. Like, if I need to surrender, then I must admit what I'm surrendering to. I must admit that I'm surrendering the things that I know that I need to let go of. Because if you want to be dedicated to something, you're going to have to give something up. Like if you're dedicated to building wealth, you're going to have to give up some of the times that you shop or how much that you spend when you go shopping. If you want to be dedicated to learning, there may be some things that you may have to give up. If I'm going to read this book, I am going to have to give something up that I would love to do in order for me to complete this chapter or in order for me to start this chapter. There's going to have to be a level of surrender. Do you know how many times I've heard the word no in my lifetime? A lot. And I'm sure it's the same thing for you. Whether it's a no to a vehicle loan or a personal loan or a job title or a duty position, whatever it is. But the thing that you have to understand, you're not surrendering to the no, but you're surrendering to the lesson. Like the no was there for a particular reason, but the lesson that was there for a lifetime. I had to surrender to the lesson and I had to surrender to the experience. Like what made it a no? And I had to learn that lesson had taught me, more about my level of resiliency, more about the level of fight that I had with inside of me. Like, have you ever fought for something that you no longer worried about what others had said about you because you were going to make it happen? And you were going to figure out, how can I make this a yes? Like I had to figure out, like, man, your credit is trash. Like I had to learn how to repair it because it wasn't about the no. Now, yeah, the no hurt, but then I had to surrender to the no and figure out, why is my credit this way? Like, look at my credit. You look at my credit utilization. What's my debt to income? Like, what do I need to pay off or what do I need to pay down? So it was about surrendering to the lesson and not crying or whining about the no, but what lesson did I learn along the way? Because surrendering to the lessons of the situations or the circumstance doesn't make you soft, but it will actually make you successful. Like, are you listening? Like, have you heard yourself when you get to certain points? Are you listening to yourself when you're talking to yourself at the moments and you're like, you know what? We're going to get through this. I surrender the time of waking up in order for me to get to where I'm supposed to do on time. Because those losses you have accumulated throughout this year, what did you learn from them? Like that's a open question. Like those losses that you have accumulated this year, what have you learned? Whether you've learned more about you or you learn more about what you don't want to do or where you're not going to go, or picking and choosing your battles, like what arguments should not have happened. What are your small levels of surrender? Like what can you let go of that isn't benefiting you? Habits, what routines, what daily rituals that you have become so accustomed to that you know now you need to walk away from them. Like there are small levels of surrender that you need to acknowledge before you acquire that next level. You hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, I'm getting to the next level." Like, okay, it's going to take some small levels of sacrifice. It's like that PlayStation. It's like a PlayStation game, right? In order for you to get to the next level, you have to achieve some things. You have to figure out some clues. You're going to have to spend time on a particular level in order for you to achieve what that next level is going to bring. I think surrender is kind of like worship, right? To me, surrender is like worship because I honor and show reverence to all of my life lessons. Like, I'm not worshiping the pain. I'm worshiping and honoring the experiences that I've gained through the pain. So what I want you to say right now, just put it in the chat. I surrender. I want you to surrender to your gift, surrender to your purpose, surrender to your mission, surrender to your vision. I surrender because I want to learn more. And those small levels of surrender will open doors for you because you stop fighting or you stop bumping your head. And I think that begins a whole nother process of development because you're not fighting against something that does not have to be the battle. I'm gonna say that again. You're no longer fighting something that doesn't have to be the battle. Like, I don't have to fight against you. I don't have to fight against my fears if I no longer fear this. That's not my battle. But when I pick and choose my battles, then I'm surrendering to those emotions that I know that I may be carrying when it comes to this particular thing. Those small surrenders, those small levels of surrender. Because when you learn what your small levels of surrender is, trust me, it becomes a lot easier for you to get who you give access to your emotions. Like, I'm not willing to give you this much power because I acknowledge my emotions when I feel this type of way. I acknowledge what the situation and circumstance is, but I surrender to the emotions that I know that I don't have to let out. Little levels, small levels, because those small levels of surrender actually begins to grow. It's like small victories. Those small victories, as I celebrate those small victories, it allows me to learn from those experiences how to do it again. And if I do it multiple times, it's like taking 1% of something. You take 1% of accomplishing a thing, then all of them are still accomplishments. It doesn't matter how small or how large the accomplishment is, they're all accomplishments. Now you're able to take that process and duplicate that process and do it again in other things or in other avenues of your life. But it took small levels of sacrifice, waking up earlier, going to bed earlier, not eating this, not going here, not speaking at this time. Those are all small levels of surrender. All right, I'm gonna leave you alone. Man, y'all be blessed. Y'all be blessed. And y'all enjoy the rest of your day. It's Mr. R2 here at Consistency is Currency, your morning podcast of choice. Go ahead and put down in the chat your takeaways, like what did you learn, or what are your small levels of surrender to you, and we'll take it from there. I see you tomorrow, Friday, as we close out the week and you're going into your holidays. And after Friday, I'll see you Monday. Y'all be blessed. Peace.